So I don't know how easy it is to see that. Hopefully it's come up reasonably well. So these are the half dozen questions, 13 questions that we actually asked them. You might just like to, I'll give you a second or two to answer all those. And I'm sure it's a bit like that square metre that everyone mentioned earlier this morning, that we all have a clear understanding of what a square metre looks like. I would have actually liked to have taken a bit of data collecting then and asked how many of us sitting here actually do have a picture of what a square metre looks like. All right, so those were our questions. And out of the 8 students, no one got them all right, which actually more than likely didn't surprise you. When you look at things like asking there, things like how many 250 millimetre measures are there in 3 metres? Just those conversion between the system. The square root of 16, very schoolish. We had one learner got 13 out of the 14 items correct. One learner got 11 items correct. 2 learners got 7 items correct. And 4 learners got less than 5 correct. 2 of those learners actually did not want to take part initially, but we just gave them that sheet and they had to look through it and they could identify that they could actually do something. They could actually circle the triangles without actually having to do any math. And they could actually work out 5 times 3 by using a calculator. So we then had a look and discussed what were we going to do about this, what was practical to achieve. And the first thing was that we found, obviously with them being additive thinkers, that trying to get them to do multiplicative equations was going to be fairly difficult. And I must admit that asking young adults to go home and learn their basic facts is not what I think a great idea, because I'd be told my pedigree. And I didn't really want that. So we decided that we would actually encourage them to use calculators to get this work done, because at the end of the day we actually want them to get a job and we want them to feel comfortable about attempting numerical equations, etc. Of course, getting them to actually use a calculator effectively, there were a couple of other things we needed to look at: their ability to actually round numbers, and also their ability to estimate that the numbers they got at the end of the day when they pushed the calculator's buttons was reasonable. Because many of these students thought that whatever I did or whatever answer came up in the calculator, it must be correct. How were we going to teach some of these ideas? And so we looked at what sort of resources could we use. First, First resource, we gave the students some squared paper, and basically we asked them to cut out squares. So we asked them to cut out the small square and then the next biggest one and so on. And we discussed how would we record that as an equation, how else might we write that. So we got into the idea of we can write these or record these in a variety of ways. We also used a calculator, and we shared how to use the calculator and also what happens when you push that square root button, that little tick button. What happens? So they actually used the squares, found out how many, keyed that in, and then pushed the square root button. So we were getting them to go backwards and forwards through that. They also used the squares to make up right-angled triangles. And they had to find all the squares that would work. And most of us, or some of us, I shouldn't assume, some of us will remember back in the good old days, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and wondered what on earth that had to do with it. We actually put the numbers with it, but they played with that and went reasonably well. After the teaching, What happened for a week, this tutor spent 15 to 30 minutes each day just talking about and reviewing what they had done. After 3 weeks, I turned up again and gave them a post-assessment, and there it is. You can see pretty much the same, changed the numbers and also added the Pythagoras in there. At the end, only 6 of the students were still there. 2 had found jobs, so we had 6 left, and of those, 2 learners got all the questions correct. 1 learner got 11 items, 2 learners got 9 items, and 1 learner got less than 5 correct. That student was the one that was not that keen on numeracy. In the discussions with the students, they all said the pieces of equipment they had used had helped them remember the ideas. One of the students said, yeah, I could sort of picture the shapes. And the other one said, making the squares into triangles was cool. So that was the sort of feedback we were getting from the students. That's that.